Well guys, I was gone for just 3 days and I missed a ton. Over the weekend, we had the Summer Summit where the devs talked about the plans for old school RuneScape for the next 6 months and even further. So today we're going to be going over that live stream, breaking down all of the new content that is going to be coming eventually in the next year or so. And we have a lot of really exciting stuff to discuss. Now they do go in depth with a few things that we already knew were coming. For example, Group Ironman, Leagues 3, and Deadman mode. However, let's start off with what I think is the most exciting reveal from this live stream, and that would be old school RuneScape's third raid, the Tomb of Amascus. Hope you guys enjoy as always, and let's get started. Now located deep within the Caridian Desert is where you're going to find old school RuneScape's third raid, the Tomb of Amascus. Honestly, when I was gone, I was thinking to myself, if they don't announce Raids 3, there is going to be a bit of pushback. Honestly, when I came back from my weekend, I thought the subreddit was going to be in shambles. People were going to be complaining all over Reddit, blasting Jagex. But I came back and everyone seems pretty pleased, to be honest. And I think a big part of that is because they announced Raids 3.
It's happening.
We're all pumped for this. This has been really, really awesome just to get to this stage. But yeah, exciting.
Raids 4, okay, alright, sure.
Slow down, please.
Look, no one does a 4. That's when you go like Raids the Chronicles or something. Like,
Raids 360?
Yeah.
Raids 1?
Okay.
Shadow Legends.
Well,
So what are some of the broad details of the Tomb of Amascus? Well, first, this raid is going to be for teams sized 1 through 8. And unlike the Theater of Blood, Raids 3 is going to be viable at all team sizes, so you'll be able to reasonably do the Tomb of Amascus solo. With 2 people, 3 people, 8 people, it should be fairly viable regardless. Now the Tomb of Amascus, or TOA, will not be a safe death for hardcore Ironman, similar to the Theater of Blood. Now with that said, the death system is going to be different than the Theater. Most likely it will be less punishing, as the overall goal for Raids 3 is to have a wider appeal, but still be very difficult for high-level players. Now how death is going to be handled in Raids 3 is not 100% fleshed out yet, but I'm sure we'll get more information on that soon. Now the estimated raid time that they are shooting for is around 35 minutes to 45 minutes per raid, however it's really hard to know, and players may finish it way quicker or slower. We're just going to have to wait and find out. Now the layout of Raids 3 is going to be a bit more linear than the Chambers of Xeric, but more random than the Theater of Blood. So when you enter the Tomb of Amascus, there are going to be 4 different paths that you can go down. Each path will contain both a challenge room and a boss fight. So the challenge room will be something like Sepulchre style dodging, or defeating enemies in an unconventional way. So maybe similar to a puzzle room in the Chambers of Xeric. Now once you complete the challenge room, you'll move on to a boss fight, and you must defeat all 4 bosses on the upper level to move down to the lower level. Now once you kill any of the bosses on the upper level, it will change the raid notably. Killing one of those bosses will have a notable buff or debuff applied to the entire dungeon going forward after it. So the order in which you kill those bosses is very important, which will put a big emphasis on choices. Now after the upper level, you can move down to the lower level where you will fight the final boss. Or I should say bosses, because you're going to be fighting 2 bosses at once. Once you defeat these 2 bosses, you will get your reward, and you can finish up the dungeon. Now, even though the Tomb of Amascus will have a linear style layout, there is still going to be a high degree of customizability, mainly in part to a brand new mechanic and new system that is going to be unique to TOA. Now that will be a new system called Invocations. Now Invocations are going to be a set of buffs or debuffs that you can apply before you start the raid. This could be simple things like tweaking a few numbers on bosses, or they could have more notable effects like changing the mechanics of bosses, the mechanics of rooms. It could force you to disable spells, disable prayers, really nothing is off the table here. Now Mod Arcane mentions that there could be as many as 30 or 40 invocations that you can enable at once. Now invocations would have an effect on your loot potential, which means the more invocations you have, the more challenging the raid becomes, and the higher likelihood you have of getting a unique or valuable reward. So what are the benefits of invocations versus just adding in a hard mode or a story mode or something like that? Well, overall it is more interesting, and it will allow players to refine their raiding experience to a much more precise level, which should give it an extremely wide appeal. If you have no invocations active, then the bosses will be a lot easier, the raid will be a lot easier, and that will be great for learners. But if you want to have the highest likelihood of getting a drop, most likely you're going to want to have some of these invocations active. Now clearly, eventually players will be able to min-max and figure out the exact perfect optimization of invocations, but that's okay. And that doesn't really mean everyone can or will do the most efficient raiding setup. Now, a new raid is not a new raid without new rewards, and while there is going to be a new update blog coming soon to give more in-depth details on exact numbers, they have revealed what some of the rewards are going to be. Now, first up here we have a new mage weapon, the Hecker of Mccutcheon. I have no idea how you write that down. Now, the Hecker of Mccutcheon is going to be a new powered wand with an attack speed of 2 cycles. However, this is also going to be including a new mechanic called variable attack speed. Essentially, the way the new wand will work is you'll get 3 quick attacks at an attack speed of 2 cycles, and the 4th attack will be slow, but a more powerful and damaging hit. Now, Mod Arcane does mention that you are going to theoretically be able to swap out for another weapon in between the attack cycles, so there will be a lot of play here on how exactly you can use it, and you could involve a lot of swapping back and forth. Now, the next main new reward is the Missouri armor set, hopefully not the state. This is going to be a new ranged armor set that will include 3 pieces of new equipment, a chest, a legs, and an amulet. Now once again here, we're going to be getting a new mechanic called Low Life. Low Life is very similar to how Durocs work. Essentially, when you have the Missouri armor equipped, whenever you are below 40% of your maximum hit points, Low Life will be active and will give you additional stats, most likely going to be offensive stats. Now this is meant to be a high risk, high reward armor set that you would use in dangerous locations. Now because it could be challenging to remain in low life state, the new amulet that's coming with the set has a very interesting set effect. Whenever you have it equipped, you are automatically going to drain 2 40% hit points. It's going to be a very offensive new amulet, and essentially the amulet will be very useful to remain around that 40% hit points. Otherwise you could easily eat above it, and you'd have to take a rock cake or a locator orb, and it would just be very weird. One thing to note about the new amulet is it still works even if you don't have the full Missouri armor set, so you can use it independently if you want. Now the final new item that they are announcing in the Summer Summit is the Ward of Elidness. This is going to be a new best in slot mage, offhand I imagine at least, and will require you to combine the new Raids 3 drop with a Arcane Sigil. Notably, with the new update, you are able to dismantle your Arcane Spirit Shield back into an Arcane Sigil if you want, but it will destroy the Spirit Shield. Now the new shield is going to be very powerful and is going to have a stat that no mage offhand has currently, and that is going to be Mage Strength, which is going to make it very favorable because that could actually increase your max hit. Now there is going to be a new poll blog coming soon, and there's even going to be beta worlds to try out the new rewards in. Now to help flesh out the new raid, the Tomb of Amascus is going to be introduced by a brand new quest called Beneath Cursed Sands. Now Beneath Cursed Sands is going to be a master level quest that is going to come out a few weeks before Raids 3 and will be a requirement to participate in the new raid. Now this is going to be a continuation of the Desert storyline and will be a sequel to the Contact quest. Now they have actually released the requirements for the quest. Now obviously we have a quest requirement being Contact. Skill requirements are going to be 62 agility, 55 firemaking, and 55 smithing with a recommended combat level of 80. So overall, a very hype announcement, a ton of things people have been looking for a long time. A new quest, a new raid, a desert themed raid at that, with some powerful new equipment. Obviously a lot of this is subject to change. However, the tentative release date for this is actually going to be the beginning of 2022, so hopefully under a year. And I gotta say, I am very excited for it. Now, the next big announcement was to do with the new Leagues 3. Now, until the Summer Summit, we had no idea what Leagues 3 was going to be. However, we now have information on the framework for the new league. Now, Leagues 3 is going to be pulling some similar traits from the first two. That is really just what makes it a seasonal league. However, it is still going to be vastly different than the other two. Now, the third league is not going to have an area restriction like the first two, and you're going to be free to unlock all of the content and bosses eventually. However, with that said, there are still going to be quite a few restrictions to begin with. In the third league, you're only going to have access to 3 skills to begin with, but you'll be able to unlock them all eventually. On top of skills, bosses are going to be locked as well, and will need to be unlocked by participating in a league. There is also going to be a different starting location, but that was not revealed yet. Now for both the skills and the bosses, you're going to unlock them with some form of unlock point that you will get by completing the different tasks, similar to Trailblazer and Twisted League. Now once again, relics are back, however they're going to be a little bit different this year. In Leagues 3, the relics have actually been shattered into relic fragments and are going to be scattered all around Gielinor, for you to unlock and collect. Now when you collect a relic fragment, it's going to start off with a minor bonus. However, as you collect more and complete sets, you're going to get more powerful effects. Now you're only going to be able to have a certain amount of relics on your person at once. However, it seems like there's going to be a lot more options on which relics you have with you. Currently, Leagues 3 does not have a name yet, but there's undoubtedly going to be a blog that will go much more in depth to it. Now the release date for Leagues 3 is estimated to be around the end of 2021, so pretty similar to the last two. Now probably the piece of content we're going to get the soonest is going to be the new Deadman Mode tournament. Now Deadman Mode has been kind of on the docket to return for quite a while now, and it's going to be returning on August 25th with Deadman Reborn. Now Deadman Reborn is going to be fairly similar to other Deadman Mode tournaments, however there are a few notable changes. Now one of the biggest structure changes is to how death works in Deadman Mode. Now in Deadman Reborn you are going to get 3 lives. If you die and you still have a life left, you are only going to get a 10% experience penalty for dying, so less punishing than before. However, once you lose all your lives and die, your entire bank is going to be wiped and you're going to start from scratch. Another big change is Deadman Mode is going to be divided into now combat restricted worlds. Now the restricted worlds are going to be as follows: levels 3 to 35, 36 to 70, 71 to 100, and 101 to 126. So that means you are going to be less likely to get instantly killed by an extremely high level player. However, good PKers are obviously going to min-max and maybe create custom builds for each restricted world. Now on top of that, in Deadman Reborn, there are now going to be Deadman Sigils, which are actually going to be kind of similar to League relics. Now Sigils are going to be tradable on the Grand Exchange, and you'll be able to swap them at any time. Now the actual tournament structure is changing quite a bit as well. Now for the Deadman finale, they are kind of scrapping the idea of the mass combat finale where everyone's running around and nobody knows what's going on. Now to secure a spot in the finale, you have to compete in the 1 month long Deadman Reborn season. The multi-way combat final hour is removed entirely. Instead, the roughly top 2,000 players will automatically be entered into the 1v1 fights. Eventually, these fights will whittle down to the finale, and a winner will be declared. First place is $20,000, second place is $10,000, and third to fourth place is $1,000 each. So I'm curious to see how this goes. Deadman modes in the past have been hit and miss on how successful they've been, but the new format does seem interesting. And the final thing they touched on in the Summer Summit is Group Ironman. Now for the most part, Group Ironman hasn't really changed too much, and they mainly just talked about what we already knew regarding Group Ironman. The main thing we learned over the weekend is roughly the release date, which actually is not too far away. And that is pretty much it, guys. There was a ton of information to cover. There are some other smaller changes that are going to be included over the next year as well. For example, the Wilderness improvements, the Wilderness boss rework, Content Poll 76, game client improvements, and notably they're going to work on gold sinks and item sinks, but they didn't really go into depth on the live stream what exactly that would entail. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Let me know what you guys think of all those changes down below. I'm pretty excited. I think Jagex did a really good job choosing what they're going to focus on over the next year, and I'm excited to see what happens. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Now before I go here, as always, I'd love to thank all of my members over on YouTube. A giant thank you to Guy Fawkes, Ocelot, Timothy Chen, WolfoftheHunt, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier membership. You guys are awesome as always, really appreciate it. Also a giant thank you to Mexose, Brandton Graffin, Hunter Durant, Yo-Yo Sub 89, Lord Dojin, Connor B, Birdbot, and Base Titch. And of course, thank you to all of my other YouTube members as well. If you guys are looking for another way to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is an awesome way to do so. Get immortalized in all of my future videos, get access to my video release schedule, and of course, get a custom role in my Discord server. Thanks again, guys, as always, and I'll see you next time.